So this is the hollow cube block. It's the pink part right here, and I'm going to show you how to piece this. And it's an optical illusion sort of quilt, and it has a 3D effect to it. And so this is the hollow cubes block, and the background is the blue fabric. And now what makes it a 3D effect is your use of fabrics. Each cube will have 3 different fabrics, a light, a medium, and a dark, in the same colorway. And I like to think of these as empty rooms. And so if this were a room and you're standing in it, the light fabric is the floor. And you're standing on the floor and you're looking toward the back of the room. And so if you're standing on the floor, which is the light fabric, and you look up to the ceiling, you'll see that it's framed in the same light fabric. And then if you continue looking at the corner of the room and you look to your right, this wall here is the medium color fabric. And directly across that, this window on the side of the room is framed in the medium fabric. And also, if you look to the left, you'll see the dark fabric, and directly across the dark fabric, you'll see the dark frame. And that's what gives you your optical illusion. So now we're going to look at how to piece the block. We're also going to look at how to put several blocks together. And then at the very end, you'll see a series of photos that shows you how I pieced the larger quilt that you see on the front. When we piece the hidden cubes block, we're going to do it in 2 sections. And this is because when we sew the quilt together, we're going to sew vertical rows. So we'll piece both halves at the same time, but we're not going to piece the halves together yet. And if we isolate this, and you look at this part right here, this is a triangle, and then the triangle has 2 frames around it, or 2 sides of the triangle are framed. And all of the triangles look just like that. There's the triangle with the 2 frames, triangle with the 2 frames, and the same thing on this side. So what you'll need to piece this is an equilateral triangle ruler, sometimes called a 60-degree ruler, and I know you really just can't see it in here. Sometimes it's called a pyramid ruler, 60-degree ruler, and what you do with this is you're going to cut strips of fabric and then cut the triangles out like this. For each cube, you'll need a light, a medium, and a dark color fabric in each colorway. And these are 10-inch squares. From these 10-inch squares, you'll be able to get 2 cubes, enough fabric for 2 cubes. And you always do things in sets. So what I'm going to do is stack these 3 pieces together and cut everything at once. Now for all of the pieces, you're going to cut 1 strip at 3 inches, and that will be your triangles, and another strip at 6 inches, and that will be your frames. So first I'm going to trim off this edge, flip it around, and then we'll cut our 3-inch piece for the triangles. 6-inch piece for the frames, and then this is the waist. For the triangles, so we're going to put the template on the 3-inch line, and we're going to cut out this triangle. And remember, they're stacked here, so we're cutting 3 triangles at once. Move this, and then move this. It's not. Okay, there you go. And then flip the triangle, the ruler over, and then cut another set. Now you'll be able to get 2 more out of here if you want to. And also on fat quarters, you're able to get 8. The cutting instructions for fat quarters to get 8 cubes is going to be in the description below the video. So now this one, the 6-inch part, we're going to cut So what you're going to do is the dark fabric will have one set of light frames and one set of medium frames. So I'll just pick all these up. So we have those. And then the medium would have one set of dark, that's 2 each, and one set of light frames. And then the light will have one set of medium and one set of dark. So I put these together like this because it's easier when we go to piece. So let me reiterate, you cut one strip at 3 inches for the triangles, and you cut 2 triangles from each color. Then you cut 4 of the 1 inch strips, 1 inch by 6 inch strips. And then that will give you enough for 1 cube, okay? So now to piece this, what we're going to do is set one aside, and we're going to take this frame piece, and I like to find the lengthwise grain by popping it like this. You hear that? And then make the lengthwise grain go this way. So you lay it, center it on your frame, and you're going to stitch 1/4 inch. And do that for all 6 of these. Now all of the frames have been stitched to one side, and I like to press my seams open, but you can press however you want. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and lay it on the piece, matching the edges, and we're going to trim the frame part off. And then you have this. After you do all of these, you're going to take another frame piece that you set aside, and we're going to piece it on another side of the block. And again, you're going to center it and stitch 1/4 inch. Press your seams open or to the side, however you like, and trim again. Now here are the 6 pieces. The second frame has been stitched on all of them, pressed the seams open and trimmed. And if you take your template and you measure this now, you should come up to the 4 inch mark on your ruler. And this means it's 4 inches high. And this is an important measurement for later when we cut our setting triangles. For the setting triangles, we're going to cut 4 inch strips of fabric and cut our triangles out of that. So now let's see how we put this together. The best thing is to keep looking at a picture until you're sure of how it goes together, because if you mix them up, you won't have the 3D effect. So I always start at the top with the light color frames. So I picked both of the light color frames. And I know that the dark is on the left and the medium is on the right, and these always go together like this. So here is your ceiling. And then I picked the medium frame because I know the medium is going to go over here. And here's the medium frame. And this is going to be the second part of the back wall, which is the dark fabric. So this one has to go here because it's also the medium. And we're starting the floor right here. Now the other one is going to be the dark one directly across, and it goes like this as well. So now you can see the 3D effect. The frames are all correct. So this is the dark frame directly across from the dark wall, the medium frame directly across from the medium wall, and then the light frame is directly on top of this floor. So now you have them correct. And what you're going to do is push these apart, and you're going to piece these 3 together and piece these 3 together. And to do this, you simply flip them over, match the points, and stitch. And what I do is finger press and then stitch the next one to this. And if you ever get confused, just lay them back down and make sure that you have your cube and your 3D effect. So I'm going to sew these two halves together and come back. Now here are the two halves I've pieced together, and I usually finger press as I piece the three pieces together, and then I go afterwards and press it with the iron. Now whenever you see these little nubs, every time you see the nubs you need to cut them off. And I usually just use the scissors, but I'll use the rotary cutter here. The nubs just get in your way when you're trying to piece. So you want nice straight edges. So do that for both sides. Now once you have your pieces, just keep those together. I usually just stack them like this and pin them together. And I'll show you next how we're going to piece this into a quilt. Now I'm going to show you how you piece these into a quilt, and this is just a single cube, and so you can see the process of it. And for the setting triangles, you're going to cut 4-inch strips and then cut your triangles using your same ruler or a template, and you're going to fill in these pieces. So there are 7 triangles pieced together on this side, and then you have your 3 triangles for the left side of your cube, and then 2 triangles at the top and 2 triangles at the bottom. So you always have the same number of triangles, total number of triangles. In this case it's 7. So then we have the right half of the cube, and we just take our setting triangles and place them here, just alternate them. So 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And then we are going to add another one so we can have a little border. And again, make sure there are 7. Sometimes it can get confusing, but if you just lay them out, you'll see it all, and then it all starts to make a little bit more sense. And then this up here. So you're going to sew these together, these rows together, just like you sewed the 3 pieces here. Start at the top, flip them over, and sew this edge. Finger press it and cut off the nubs, and then sew this next one to that. Now I found it's easier to put a little pin at the very top, so these 2 would also get pins before they're pieced. So you always know that's the top, because it can get confusing when you start adding more and more pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll show you how you want to add more cubes, multiple cubes together, what you do in that case. Now let's say you wanted to put some cubes together. You wanted to stack cubes or put cubes on top of each other. You start by laying out your cube and then put your next one, and you'll have to pay attention to the direction of the light and dark fabric. So the left half of one cube will be on top of the right half of another one, because that's the way they fit in. And so you'll see here that here's the dark on the left and here's the dark on the left. So this is how you stack them. And if this was all you wanted to do, you would fill these in with your setting triangles, as many or as few as you want. And the triangles are all the same size as the finished triangles in this block. And you always put an extra one at the top and one here, because this will allow you to cut off, oops, can't see it. This will allow you to cut off at the end, and we'll do that next. So if you wanted to add another one here, just pull these out, and let's put the blue one here. So now they're stacked together, and then you would just fill in these other places here. So it's really a very simple pattern. You just have to keep track of the position and the placement of the colors on your cube, because sometimes you'll know for sure if you've done the wrong thing. It will definitely look wrong. You'll say, that cube is upside down or whatever. Maybe you want it upside down. So that's how easy it is. Now let's take, and I'll show you how to trim the tops once you finish this. And then the next thing, I'll show you how I make the big quilt that's about 67 by 80 inches. So here's our little quilt finished, our 1 cube quilt. And you might notice that this is the little triangle I had to switch around. It was in the wrong spot. I didn't notice it till I finished the whole thing. So now I'm going to show you how to cut off the top and bottom to make it even. And we're going to turn it around like this. This little point here, where these 2 triangles meet, well actually 4 triangles meet and form a point, you're going to use that and this one over here to line up and cut. So that little point, we're going to put the 1/4 inch mark on this point and on this point over here. And it's really difficult to see because it's all the same fabric. So get as close as you can. And I'm going to cut this off. And do the same thing on this side. And there you have your finished block. So this is the correct way with the dark wall on the back. Now next I'm going to show you just a series of pictures of how I put together the large quilt, and all of the information you need will be in the description below the video. And there's also going to be a link to another quilt I did that it's called Color Junction, and it shows how to sew the rows together and to still have really good points. So you might want to look at that video to see how to put these rows together and keep your points.